prosecution outlined how accounting practices
fuck?
of Conley
What?
Sessions did not.
What kind of likeness is that? If they were great artists, they'll be in a museum.
Evidence today may signal at least one.
I'm fucking fodder for cartoonists now.
We interrupt your weekly new global conflict to bring you another episode of Gutter Boys. Gutter Boys is a small press comics podcast about the ins, the outs, the highs, and the lows of making comics. Very serious stuff. I'm your host, JB, with my co-host, Cam. On this episode, we are joined with Sam Grinberg, LA-based cartoonist. You may be familiar with his work, as he's been a character designer on The Simpsons, which is now older than I am, almost.
He's apparently been around for 250 plus episodes, which is more than a quarter of the show.
But yeah,
we don't really talk about that though.
We don't really get into Simpsons. But hey, maybe we'll have him back on for Patreon, and maybe we can talk about all that stuff. And I'm sure people would probably be interested in that. I don't know. But yes,
I would be.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. We talk about his book, which is titled, I'm already forgetting. What is it called?
Scumburbia.
And just a variety of topics there. But before we get into that interview, we have some breaking news. Well, this is not that breaking, actually. This this came up, let's see, yesterday or the day before, right? So today right now is the 16th, so this would have been the 15th or the 14th.
Yeah. And
as many of you probably been paying attention. I mean, unless you're just a complete fucking moron, and I don't know, like even your TikTok feed isn't telling you what's going on. But there is a full-on war going on right now, thanks to the US of A, our home country. Shout out to USA, just doing the work. And and
boots
Israel,
on the ground, baby.
Yeah. And our greatest ally, Israel, a very chill ally. And the reason why we're talking about this is because it does have to do with comics. Before I get the average comics enjoyer listener being like, why are you guys talking about politics? This is not political. Why are we talking about politics? The co-founder of the Seattle-based comic book publisher Fantagraphics, Michael Catrone, is that how you say it?
No, I thought it was Gary Groth.
Well, no, this is the person that posted the news on social media.
Oh, yeah. I saw a tweet or a Facebook post from Roberta Gregory, whose book got fucked up. So are you on Bleeding Cool? I need to pull it up.
I'm on the Bleeding Cool article, and Michael here posted on social media that Fantagraphics learned that a cargo vessel carrying the full print runs of 2 of our books was struck by an Iranian missile in or near the Strait of Hormuz. The report we have is that the ship has limped to a safe port where we await further news. Our thoughts are with the crew, and we hope to pray for their safety. The 2 books, the Atlas Comics Library No. 9, Adventures into Weird World, Volume 1, by Russ Heath, Bernard Kriegstein, Bill Everett, Joe Manili, Carmine Infantino, etc., and Bitchy, The Exasperating Existence of Midge McCracken, by Roberta Gregory and Helen Chazon. I think that's how you say that.
Yeah. You know what's really crazy is I just had to Google this because I'd never heard of this Michael Catrone guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he really is a co-founder of Fantagraphics. I was like, did Bleeding Cool fuck up their shit?
No.
How the fuck? You never hear about this Michael guy.
I could talk about Bleeding Cool. They rarely miss when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah. You never hear him talk about this Michael guy. You always hear about Eric and Gary.
Yeah. So, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Maybe Michael wanted to take the heat. Gary was too busy microwaving fish.
Yeah.
It's like, not my problem. Anyway, so I actually was talking to Tony about this, because he was like, why was this shipping container even in the Strait of Hormuz? Because he assumed that, and I assumed as well, that these books would have been printed in China. Well, it turns out that these were actually books printed in India, and they were bound for the port of New York rather than going from China to the West Coast, likely, in or around Los Angeles. Both books were scheduled to go on sale in early June, but that time frame now seems unlikely. If the books themselves were not damaged and the crippled ship's cargo can be offloaded to another vessel, and that vessel can then safely exit the danger zone, it could add a month or two more to the delivery time. We have no information on the cargo ship's itinerary, but our speculation is that it was dropped off other cargo from India to that region or picking up additional cargo bound for the U.S. Bitchy Bitch is most exasperated by this unexpected turn of events, echoing the title of one of Weird World's horror stories, When a World Goes Mad.
Yeah. And what's really crazy about this is Mike posted this to an EC, like Eerie Comics, like Facebook group. Like Fantagraphics didn't even post this as news. Mm-hmm. Mike just dropped it in like a weird old man comic group and people screen grabbed it on Facebook. It just goes to show that, Fantagraphics really on top of things over there.
I mean, they probably would have had to make some sort of statement, not at least to the distributors, right?
Yeah, and I guess maybe they're waiting to see, because they said maybe the cargo was saved, because we still don't know.
Right.
The books might be unscathed. But,
right. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I will point out that his speculation that, they could, even if the books aren't damaged and even if the ship isn't totally ruined, then they could just offload it to another vessel, and then that vessel can then go through it. That's not happened, by the way. Straight up, I'm sorry to tell you this. Take that shit up with your government, because that shit is not happening. Now, interestingly, this article from Bleeding Cool, written by Rich Johnston. Shout out, Rich.
Shout out, Rich. Yeah, he follows me now because I was shit to him. Yeah.
Well, Rich, I like that you also brought up that this comes off of the heels of the Sharjah Animation and Comics Conference 2026 in the UAE has been canceled due to the Iran war. I did not know anything about this conference that was going to go on in the UAE. That's fucking crazy to have a conference at the UAE for this. What the fuck? What could, it's just mind blowing to me. I don't understand that. I mean, I guess if you are a sociopathic slaver, you still probably enjoy comics and, funny guys doing funny things. So I guess hats off to them for doing that. But yeah, that's wild. The fact that they were even going to do that. So stupid. But let's see here. So for people who maybe aren't familiar at all with the Strait of Hormuz or why this is a big deal, the Strait of Hormuz is a major channel for basically all incoming and outgoing imports and exports across the globe. And that includes the bulk of our goods that we get from, places like India. And the fact that it got to this point and anyone even attempting to bring in non-allied ships through the strait, that's just, I can't express to you how stupid that is. I don't care if your boss is threatening to fire you and I don't know, sue you into oblivion. I'd be like, all right, you drive it then. You drive through the strait and then let me know how that goes when you get exploded into a billion pieces. Because it's a literal choke point. There's I know that the media, the press was, and also White House, which that's they were reporting falsely that the Iranian government was mining the strait. And that is not the case, because if you're mining the strait, that means also your allied ships can't go through, your own ships can't go through. It's not like magnetic sea mines can make a distinction between an American or an American allied cargo ship versus an Iran or an Iranian allied ship. It's going to blow up your ship. It doesn't matter what flag is raised on that ship. So that was silly that they were even trying to report that.
Right.
But yeah, right now, this is pretty much a no-go zone. And this is also one of the main routes used for exporting oil to different countries. Now, thanks to our wonderful leader, Donald Trump. Shout out to Trump, doing great work.
Yeah, he's out there crushing it.
Honestly, I mean, if you're a third worldist, he kind of is doing the work. Like, if you know what I mean, like if you were like, if you're an accelerationist, this is great. Because this is absolutely what you want to see. It's crippling the U.S. economy. It's crippling Israel's economy. It's crippling basically every single one of the West's allies. The price of oil the price per barrel is just skyrocketing.
Yeah, it rules.
Yeah, like the markets are screaming, and I don't know. I mean, granted, this particular article is about the comics. Shout out to Fantagraphics. Real shame you guys had to take an L because, the
first L you've ever taken.
The president wanted to fuck around and find out, I guess. I don't know.
A shame that some other books didn't go down on that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we need to get a communique going with Iran and be like,
yeah,
hey,
be like, all right, so these are when the we hear the new crickets is on this boat.
We got to assist the ops. they're people are catching strays here. We got to make sure that the targets are going where they need to go. I don't know who made the boss call in terms of shipping the Fantagraphic books, placing them on that cargo ship and being like, yeah, you can totally go through the Strait of Hormuz, dude. It's totally chill. No problems whatsoever.
They knew the books would, make a larger flame with all the papers.
Yeah,
so
I guess.
It was a setup.
Maybe they were using it kind of like a shield to protect other goods that people actually give a shit about.
Yeah, like the variant covers to Absolute Batman.
Well, no, I was thinking more like.
No, I know.
I was thinking more like I don't know, the upcoming fall collection from
Balenciaga.
Yeah, Balenciaga. Well, it'd be from India, so probably more likely Target or Walmart.
Right.
But yeah, it's crazy they made that call and being like, yeah, man, it's cool. It's
Go
totally
for it.
Good. Yeah. Fuck it.
I wonder if like Fantagraphics has insurance for that kind of thing. Like, what happens when your shit just gets blown up? Like, does the printer like have to make it again? Surely they're off the hook for that. You know?
I don't know. I would like to talk to maybe Sean and see, like, in those situations, who pays for, if there is anyone paying anything. Is it insured by the printer, or is it insured by the publisher, or is it like a thing that they both go in on, or what is the deal with that?
Well, I will say that I asked RJ Casey, because I posted a screen grab of Mike saying this stuff in the EC group on my story. And I said, you work there. He responded being like, holy shit, and I said, you work there. Do you know if this stuff's like insured or anything? And he said he has no idea. So I did do a little bit of journalistic digging and came up with nothing.
So I'm going to go ahead and take a wild guess and say no, it is not insured. Just call that speculation on my part, but I'm going to take a guess and say no, it's not.
Hey, the silver lining here is our girl Katie Skelly's book was not on that boat. So Heaven is out in July, baby.
Hell yeah. Maybe
I do want to say this real quick.
Well, I was going to say, maybe that one got printed in China and now it's on its way to LA.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so Fantagraphics, maybe don't print anything in India right now, just so you can avoid using this. The Strait of Hormuz. I will say there was an official statement from Roberta Gregory, the author of Bitchy. She wrote on Facebook, shared the article and wrote, "Oh great, from bad to worse, the ship with my book on it and lots of other stuff as well was hit by a missile. I don't really believe my cursed existence is somehow responsible for this, but I'm not lying when I say there's days I honestly wonder." Well, Roberta, you know what? If it makes you feel any better, I don't think this was your cursed luck. I think this is just, unfortunately, a byproduct of the shit that we're in right now. So, hey, Bitchy's all right, though. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's a pretty good comic, but yeah, I think
it's a little silly. It just comes off just a little silly.
Oh, yeah. She's also old as fuck.
Yeah, I mean, she's an old white feminist, dude. Like, what are you going to do? Let's be real.
Right.
You're going to get the most libbed up nonsense take. That's just par for the course. You know, no hate or anything on her. It does suck that her books got lost. But come on, man. Let's maybe read The Room a bit better next time. That's crazy.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll give you an update if Fantagraphics can save these books. Hopefully they're made out of that stuff they give to babies where it's like drool proof. Otherwise, they're floating in the bottom of the sea. R.I.P. Bitchy and Atlas Comics Volume 9 or whatever it was.
Yeah. Also, these can be replaced. Like, who cares?
Yeah, they're just
they're delayed by like 6 months. Oh, no. Like, who fucking cares?
If they're not insured, Fantagraphics might have to do a Kickstarter again to...
Yeah, that's true.
Get shit out.
I'd be very surprised if they weren't insured in some capacity, though. Like it just
like some kind of business insurance.
I really have a hard time thinking that Fantagraphics is that incompetent.
They're using their homeowners insurance out of the house they run out of.
Yeah, they changed their mailing address to that cargo shipping container for insurance purposes. Yeah, according to our records, your home seems to be moving. And now it's at the bottom of the ocean. But you know, I would say in the grand scheme of things, this is not that big of a deal. If I'm being real,
yeah,
I'd be more interested in the loss of life. I mean, if you're really just like a hardliner, just like it's all just zeros and ones, you know, like it's profits and losses, then if you're going to look at it that way, I would say the barrel of oil skyrocketing is probably worse. Sure. Yeah. You know, but hey.
All right. Well, I guess it's about time for us to take a break. And after the break, we'll be back with Sam Grinberg on the last ever episode of Gutter Boys. Stay tuned.
We'll be right back.
A young man kidnapped and forced to become a Sicario. A disposable soldier in the wars of organized crime. A young woman kidnapped and trafficked. Her life reduced to a commodity in a brutal underworld. When their paths cross, they see a way out. Will they have a shot at survival? This is How to Disappear in Mexico, a mostly black and white 44-page comic book by cartoonist E. Esparza. A comic inspired by what may lie behind some missing persons cases in Mexico. The comic book is finished and getting released through Kickstarter, which launches May 14th. The digital version is just $2. What a bargain, right? The print version is $31 including shipping, and again, the Kickstarter launches May 14th. The pre-launch page is up now. Just look up How to Disappear in Mexico on Kickstarter.com.
Are you ready for a wild ride? Get ready to meet the Santos sisters. Two ordinary girls with an extraordinary secret. One day, while combing the beach in their hometown of Las Brisas, the Santos sisters discovered a pair of beautiful medallions. What happens next changes their lives forever. The medallions are imbued with the powers of a goddess, Madame Sosostris, and can transform them at will into flying, gun-wielding, mask-wearing murder heroes with hearts, if not gold, then at least candy. That's right, it's a mix of Archie Comics meets Love and Rockets with a healthy dose of kick-ass action. Join Ambar and Alana as they fight crime, date dumb guys, and, well, try to stay sane in a world of assassins, zombies, crazy ex-girlfriends, and more. The Santos Sisters Volume 1 hardcover from Fantagraphics is coming to a comic shop or bookstore near you on March 11th of 2025. Don't miss out on this Technicolor tapestry of irreverent comic book fun. Santos Sisters, because life's a beach until it's not.
Indie Northern Kentucky, or Inc., is the Northern Kentucky and Cincinnati area's only zine, alternative comic, and small press bookstore, featuring over 400 different zines, alternative comics, and small press titles. A creative space with supplies to ideate and create your own zines and comics. and an event space for your zines, comics, or book release or reading. For more information about how to sell your zines and comics at Inc., stop by indieNKY.com. That's IndieIndiesky.com. Visit our new home in Dayton, Kentucky, and read what the cool kids are reading.
Underground Kingdom Comics Presents Romance is the third issue of a new anthology showcasing the UK's most exciting small press cartoonists. This 28-page A5 comic features cover art by Vincent Bell Robertson and comics by Lily Blakely, Adam Falp, and Anna Redman, plus pinups from Kai Reynolds and Matt Greaves. Daredevils and Warriors wrote, "If you want to leave your comfort zone and are looking for thoughtful and original comics that have an edge without being edgy, then you should check out these UKC books." You can buy Underground Kingdom Comics Presents Romance now, along with the previous two issues, Horror and Crime, and Original Art, by backing our Kickstarter, which is live until Friday, March 15th. Don't be a cunt, buy a comic, innit? Hell yeah. Meow. Meow. Sid the Cat magazine is out now. If you've ever been to an amazing rock and roll show and thought, I wish I could experience this moment again, but in comic form, then Sid the Cat magazine is for you. Fiercely independent show promoters Sid the Cat have joined forces with comics journalist Andrew Greenstone to bring you an ongoing publication that documents the SoCal indie rock scene. This stunning 52-page full-color magazine features comics, articles, photos, and illustrations from a rotating cast of local illustrators and writers. It's a celebration of Sid's artists and venues and supports those keeping the bleeding edge of the indie music scene alive. Our first issue covers musical artists Big Thief, Illuminati Hotties, Mike Kroll, Fucked Up, Finn Lilly, Katie Kirby, Kate LeBon, Cursive, Christian Lee Hudson, No Win, and so many more. If you are a fan of comics, indie music, zines, rock reports, or community by the way of culture, order a copy now at sidthecat.com/Sid-zine. Again, that's sidthecat.com/Sid-zine.
Athenium Comic Art is an original art website for some of the best cartoonists in the business. They currently represent Remy Boydell, Marie Capel France, Nicole Gu, Jonathan Hill, Emma Hunsinger, Casey Nowak, Micah Song, and Tilly Walden. Athenium Comic Art gives fans the opportunity to own an original piece of art from their favorite comics and support the artists that they love. In their short time in business, they've already shipped many iconic pages out to hardcore fans across the globe. Don't miss out on your chance to own a one-of-a-kind piece of history. Check out their website, atheniumcomicart.com, and type in Gutter Gang at checkout to receive free shipping on your first order. Again, the website is atheniumcomicart.com, and the code is Gutter Gang.
Morning, Gary. Morning, Mary Ann. Need a menu? Nah, I'll just have the usual. You sure do love your eggs and coffee, Gary. Best way to start your morning, Mary Ann. Well, that and an issue of Town and County. What's that? Town and County is a new comic series written and drawn by cartoonist Alex Knoll. He's that guy that wrote them books about teaching and that Mr. Rogers feller. Oh, he was such a nice man. The first issue is 36 pages of black and white comic stories with beautiful color covers and features 6 stories about folks in our little township here in Illinois, like Susie Barber, the house cleaner that uncovers her client's dirty laundry, if you know what I mean, and Stanley Pepper, that big feller that just lost his job and took to drinking every night at Bugs's Tavern. Well, ain't that something? Town and County is published by Ivy Terrace Press, headquartered in Chicago. Chicago? Who would want to live there? So dirty. Each issue comes with a copy of the Hometown Hero, our little town's newsletter, and it's only $8. $8? Where can I get it, Gary? You can order a copy of Town and County on the internet at storeenvy/Alex Knoll Comics. Oh, there's your breakfast, Gary. Thanks, Mary Ann. Nothing like a cup of coffee and a good comic book.
Rust Belt Review is a quarterly comics lit magazine featuring serialized and short-form comics from some of the most exciting cartoonists in the small press scene today. Volume 1 features work from Gutter alums M.S. Harkness, Audra Stang, and Caleb Arecchio, along with work by Andrew Greenstone, Sean Knickerbocker, and Juan Jose Fernandez. You can order your copy of Rust Belt Review today by going to rustbeltreview.org. Enter in promo code GUTTER to receive $2 off your order. Again, that website is rustbeltreview.org, promo code GUTTER.
The Last Aviatrix is a post-nuclear adventure comic by independent, Los Angeles-based cartoonist Buster Cagle. The story follows Summer, our last aviatrix, who pilots the sole-surviving airplane, a nuclear-powered B-29, as she travels the ruined world finding ways to survive and help humanity while dealing with the imminent threat of the Atom-born, a rare breed of atomic wizards that want to see her out of the sky. Her mission becomes complicated when she accidentally picks up Henry, an Atom-born child who wields incredible power, and Clementine, a berserker on a quest for vengeance. Can our aviatrix survive this ruined and irradiated wasteland? Every issue can be read for free on bustercagle.com/comics. Paper copies can be ordered as well, but you can still read it for free. If you like wizards or warplanes, go check it out.
Now, back to our program.
And welcome back from the break. Today, we have a long-time expected guest. You've heard us talking about it for a while. Finally in the studio with us today, we've got LA-based cartoonist, animator, artist Sam Grinberg. You know him from his work in Scumburbia. What's up, Sam?
Hey, how's it going? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure. Glad to finally talk to you. I guess...
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Yeah, I'm glad that we finally made it happen because... it's been a while, and ever since, well, it's even before this, but ever since I think Ryan Cecil gave me a shout out for that Silver Lake comic show, I was like, oh, I really want to be on there and chat with you guys.
Yeah, for sure. And I've been, picking up your work. I got some stuff from Strangers, Fanzine, Distro, and stuff. So I've been aware of your work for a while. I'm a fan myself. Yeah, so let's just jump right into it. You mentioned the Silver Lake Comics Festival. Is that something that you organize? I know you were an exhibitor there.
Yeah. I guess it would be 2 years ago now, before Comic Arts LA was reinstated. There was a big hole that I felt that was missing of a big comic show. And not that the one that I organized is big per se compared to that one, but I was like, I really want another yearly comic show here in LA. So I've been going to Silver Lake Shorts, which is a monthly live action and animation screening here in Silver Lake at El Cid, and become friends with the founders. Jared Ben and his wife Carissa is involved. And anyway, so I was like, oh, we should organize a comic show. And there's such a following here, and also a crossover between animation and comics in LA, of all places, that I figured it'd be a great partnership and venue, which is a big open outdoor Mexican restaurant with screen where you can project things as well. So I partnered with them and we decided to organize it last year. And then it was so surprisingly successful. I mean, we put flyers all over town and in like every comic record store, just anywhere you can think of, coffee shop. And surprisingly, there was a ton of people. So we did it again this year, and it was shockingly even more crowded than last year. So we hope to do it just every year and keep it free. And just, it's such a small venue that it's about like a little under 30 people. So comparatively to Comic Arts LA, it's not a lot of people, but it still is a decent size. So yeah.
Hell yeah. I feel like organizing a show is such like an ordeal. And I know that from exhibiting and just seeing people that I know organizing it. So I feel like it's definitely a labor of love there. I know you mentioned it was, due to the absence of a show here and there. And it's kind of like you're doing your own thing there in Silver Lake. Do you feel like, and I know you obviously have plans to continue it, do you feel like it's something that you hold precious and dear to you to where you'll always like be the organizer, or do you think it's something that you hope gets legs of its own and you can pass it off one day and maybe kind of operate in the background?
That's an interesting question. Honestly, I haven't even thought that far ahead yet. I mean, it's just, yes, it is a lot of work that goes into it, but luckily there's a team with me at Silver Lake Shorts where it's like not purely mine, like we can all work together, and they're totally capable of continuing it if they wanted to. If for some reason I wasn't available, because they organize monthly events. But it's been nice to just be involved with them, and kind of like, while they're busy with the animation film aspect of it, it's like I'm taking the comic side of it. And like, yeah, I mean, it's work, but it's also not so much work where it's like, it's taking up all my time. It's also fun. So it's fun to create flyers, and I actually have a great time driving around town, taping them everywhere I can and bringing them places. So for now, I'm fine being involved, and we'll just see. I mean, in the future, who knows? But for now, it's just been fun to continue this.
For sure. And I kind of like the, I used to book punk shows when I was in like high school, and like this was like, there was like it wasn't pre-internet, but I mean, it's like 03, 04, 05. So
yeah,
like,
sure.
The whole flyering aspect, like there really is something about like going, and whether it's hanging stuff up or talking to shop owners and making those connections, or even just handing stuff out to people that might be coming out of a show or at a comic shop or something. There is something to be said about a connection that you can make there that you don't usually have via just posting on Instagram.
Totally. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, and posting on Instagram for this show certainly is helpful tremendously, but I found that there were a lot of people that did just see the flyer that day or that week and came in and like, I didn't even know this was happening. And it was like, wow, that the guerrilla marketing really worked. And also it's funny, I enjoy it so much that I might even not table edit this year, which probably will be November, and just organize it, because one, I don't have many new things, or if anything new that I would have ready by this November. But even so, it would be nice to actually not worry about setting up and selling for once, and just kind of organize it and hang out and make sure that everyone's doing okay and such.
Hell yeah. Well, definitely let us know when it's coming up. If you want to shoot me a message, I'll plug it on the show and air little things about it too, if you want to go that traditional.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's awesome that you're doing that. So obviously it's comics oriented. And we will get into your animation background a little bit.
Sure.
Speaking broadly, but I do, want to keep it comics focused, since that's what the show is about.
Oh, totally.
You've been doing Scumburbia for at least the last, I feel like 5 years. Is that right? Maybe even longer than that. Like I've been aware of it, I feel like, for around then.
Yeah, that sounds right. I mean, I was making like these little zines, like kind of crafting these ideas and characters for a long time. But before I think the first time I like kind of made a small mini comic with these characters was probably close to 10 years ago, but I didn't like actually sit down and make write a whole script. That was almost like kind of on the fly, of just winging it and just seeing what happens with these characters and just exploring. And then the first real time I sat down and kind of wrote a script, so to speak, was about 2021, like 5 years ago. And that was like the first kind of test to see if I can continue this. And I did, but it took way longer than I thought, because as I was writing it, it just grew and grew and grew. And then a comic that I thought would be 30 pages became 80. And and that's why the next one is taking me even longer, because it's going to be around the same length. But yeah, I would say about 5 years of these comics out in the world.
And even though you're based in LA, these comics aren't based in LA. They're based in, is it Jersey where you grew up?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I never actually specify where this takes place. I feel like Suburbia is pretty universal, and that's what's kind of funny about traveling. When I have the chance to comic shows wherever I go, like even within California, or when I was in Toronto one year or Ohio, everyone's always like, oh, you're from, where are you from? This is like where I grew up. And that person will not be from New Jersey, which is nice. But yeah, it's certainly inspired by New Jersey, and all the reference I always look at are just photographs I took around the town I grew up in.
So you live in LA now, correct? Like full time?
I do, yeah.
Okay, so you grew up on the East Coast and you transitioned to the West Coast. What was that like? Explain your journey from getting to the East Coast to the West Coast in art. I also saw on your website you went to SVA in the mix there as well.
I did, yeah. It's funny because I really never intended per se to. I mean, I love animation, of course. Like I grew up watching cartoons, Simpsons, Nickelodeon, Looney Tunes, all of the above. But I kind of naively thought, like, oh no, like I'm gonna just make comics and support myself making comics. And I went to SVA for cartooning, and it was great. I loved it. I had incredible teachers and everything. But then when I was close to graduating, I was like, oh, what am I going to do now? And I had an internship at an animation studio, and that it was Augenblick in Brooklyn. And it helped boost my resume I decided that if I come out to LA, I could probably, or hopefully, find a job in animation by day so I can make my comics by night and just see what happens. And I'd rather have a job, because prior to that I was working at CVS. So I'd rather have a job drawing by day or in an art related field and work on my comics at night versus somewhere else, which I'm glad I did, because it's been inspiring to work in something by day that is adjacent to comics or art in general. And so, yeah, the transition was interesting because I came out here technically for grad school at UCLA for animation, but I kind of quickly learned, like, I am not an animator. Like, I'm a character designer now, and animating is just, I do it and I have done it, and it's certainly fun, but you really have to love the art of animation. And a lot of these people I were in school with are really talented, and they can really think three-dimensionally in a way that my brain doesn't quite do. And so I kind of figured out, like, oh, character design is kind of where I fit in the most and what I enjoy doing the most, because I don't have to really, yes, I have to be aware of what I'm passing along to an animator because they're going to make it move. So I might have to draw a turnaround or think three-dimensionally in that regard. But that's really not much different than when you're drawing a comic and you're just drawing your character from every angle. But I don't have to actually worry about the minutia of how a hand is turning in perspective or catching a ball or something like that. And while I did, all those assignments and experiments, just the time it takes to actually achieve something that you're happy with it takes so much longer, where you can just draw a comic and you have a finished product in front of you. And I'm just totally satisfied with that experience. And so, long story short, being in that school, I dropped out of the grad school program at UCLA when I got an internship on The Simpsons. That turned into a job. And then I was like, oh, I don't need to finish this program if I am already working as a production assistant. So after that, I just have been on the show ever since and been working on the comics the whole time as well.
Hell yeah. So it kind of seems like you had like a half school, half out of school experience whenever you went to grad school. So I know going to school for animation and comics is probably like, there's a lot of overlap, but also I'm sure it's very different. We have guests on the show that, are self-taught and have also attended various programs, whether it be through SVA, the Center for Cartoon Studies, and so forth. Do you feel that now that you're a quote unquote veteran in the comics industry, you've been doing it a while, do you feel that school for comics was worth it?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because I think the answer is always going to be it depends on the person. Like, for some people, you can look at their work or look at them and, like, they don't need it. They can teach themselves. They know what they're doing. They did their homework, so to speak, and, like, they don't need school at all. I mean, for me, I had sort of like, I was a little closed-minded in that prior to college, I was making comics since I was 7, like, stapling them, folding them, whatever. But I kind of avoided, like, I don't need life drawing. I don't need any of this stuff. Like, I just want to draw funny cartoons. And it took me such a long time and being in school really taught me that what improved my cartooning was not only learning foundations of drawing and life drawing, which again, you can take not in college as well, but it wasn't just that for me. It was like, I ran so much on just pure instinct by just reading comics and feeling like I knew how to draw them because I'm picking it up through osmosis. And some people can do that, and that's great. But I found that I really needed to, like, it's funny. I never was a superhero comic reader. Like, I read kind of everything but. And when I had some teachers that were assigned to me that were Marvel and DC guys, I was kind of like bummed. I wanted the more, I wanted Gary Panter and all these other people who I did eventually have. But what I'm getting at is, like, I learned so much from these Marvel and DC professors about the foundations of storytelling and how to actually tell a story visually and not confuse the reader, that I could have learned that stuff by checking out books and doing my own homework. But just where I was at that point, I found that for me, it was essential to have a teacher teach me how to do this. And I saw my work slowly improve over the course of 4 years, and continue to after, by really kind of researching and doing the homework, which was fun work. But yeah, so I think it just depends on the person and what they're going to get out of it. And also, I have to mention that it's incredibly helpful to make connections too, because even if you are incredibly talented and you don't need college, I found that it really helped to meet other cartoonists and create relationships with professors who are working professionally, because you never know when that can come back years later and they'll help you or give you a gig or remember you, or you can help another friend and then they'll help you. And not that that's what you're in it for, but it'll just happen naturally. So that part is important.
Hell yeah. You did mention, you grew up reading comics and it wasn't the superhero stuff. Were you a newspaper guy? What kind of comics were you seeking out growing up, and how did those tastes evolve?
I had the Sunday funnies, but I really didn't gravitate towards that or read them much. Like, I read Peanuts, but that's about it. No, I read Bone was a huge influence on me. I loved Sam and Max. I read a lot of Simpsons comics, but I also what's funny for me is I was always making comics from, like I said, from 7 through, all through college or whatnot. But it's funny because while I did love reading comics and collecting a bunch, watching animation, like I was saying earlier, was such a big influence on me that a lot of my comics from that era of being a kid through grade school and high school were just watching a ton of Nickelodeon and trying to replicate, even though I don't necessarily draw like that now, trying to replicate the weird Klasky Chupo style of characters in comic form. And I would just seek out any kind of goofy or strange comic that was reminiscent of that, just at the bookstore or anything. And then that's when I slowly kind of then discovered Charles Burns and Daniel Clowes, and the the indie comic people you would expect that one would discover after they read kind of more alternative kids comics.
I do feel like Nickelodeon magazine, I'm assuming you grew up in the 90s.
Yes.
Yeah, they had such good comics in that magazine growing up that were by so many people and names you recognize, but as a child, you're not really picking up on who that actually is. Like Kim Deitch doing a whole fucking, strip for years in it. There's just so many, and I'm sure that was just gig work to some of those guys,
No, absolutely. I mean, it's so funny because I was saying this recently, actually, that I almost feel like through osmosis, I almost I was brainwashed to I thought I was I'm drawn to these comics, when I was in high school and in college, Kaz or I'm trying to think who else did some of those Nickelodeon magazine comics, but it's it's probably because I read those religiously as a kid and didn't realize that it was imprinting on me these styles from cartoonists that I had no idea actually made comics outside of Nickelodeon. I didn't research as a kid who was making these comics. And now as an adult, I've tried to collect as many Nickelodeon magazines as possible and find them, because they're actually really hard to find and expensive when you do come across them on eBay.
They are so expensive, it sucks.
Yeah, I know, it's terrible.
And it sucks because I had a 3-year subscription, and of course they just got thrown away, eventually.
Man.
And I just wish I held on to them. I remember reading them until they were just fucked up and falling apart.
Yeah. No, those are incredible. The art in there is just, I think it's so incredibly well done. All of that. And actually, kind of a bit of a tangent, but I started collecting these in the last 2 years religiously because I put together this massive 300-page book of ads that are comics. It started as me just collecting a few for fun, online. And then I was you know what? It'd be fun to collect more and more and find as many, because there's been a lot of books of ads that collect the 40s, 50s, 60s, even older than that, of comic advertisements. But there's a plethora of great 90s and 2000s ads that are comics that are primarily in Nickelodeon magazine or Disney Adventures, and those are just lost in time. So I found as many as possible when I drove across the country 2 years ago, and I just tried to stop at a ton of different comic book stores, and I surprisingly found a decent amount, and I scanned a bunch and put together this massive book that I'm happy I did, so some of those aren't lost forever.
I did see that you had that on your table, and I've been curious about that, and I've been hoping to run into a show and pick one up. I just haven't been doing shows as much the last couple of years. However, it is a cool project, and I do want to, since we're here, kind of want to talk about that. That's just obviously another labor of love there. When you're putting something like that together, I'm assuming you're just scanning it, putting it together as a book. I haven't seen it, so was your approach chronological? How did you put that together?
That's how I originally wanted to do it, but then I realized that I wanted, like, I mean, there's so many ads, like, they're just, like, especially, like I said, going back from, like, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, that, like, I wanted to mainly focus on 80s, 90s, and 2000s because that stuff has not been collected, as far as I know, ever. I mean, I don't think there has been one, but there has been prior to that many books. I think even Fantagraphics has a book of old ads. But for this one, so I was like, no, I don't think chronological would really make sense because it's mainly going to be 90s and 2000s anyway, even though there's a sprinkling in there from a bunch of decades. But instead, I just decided what page would look good next to another page, purely just on visuals and what the comic looks like. So I just went through and kind of each page, there's 300 of them. I just went through and decided, like, yeah, this one has a ton of color, will look great next to this black and white one, and this composition to this. But almost like I was drawing a comic in a way, like when you think about the pages and what page looks good next to another one, I was trying to make it work as much as possible to the point where you just back yourself into a corner and it's like, all right, well, some of these pages just are going to have to go next to each other, but as many as I could. That was the logic behind it.
All right, so let's get into a little bit of how you go about making your comics.
Oh, sure.
Do you generally have like a starting point that kicks everything off? And then once that's established, what is the procedures that you go through before you reach sort of like the final stages of finalizing a book?
Yeah, sure. I would say that before anything, I'm always writing down like for the series that, I'm kind of in the middle of right now, the Scumburbia series, like I'm kind of always just jotting down things in a notes app of just phrases, thoughts, ideas, funny things that happen, anything that I think will kind of work in the story. And then after that, I basically just kind of word vomit a giant, not in a pure script form in any way, but just kind of like what would happen in this next issue. And then from there, it almost is like sculpting where I'm kind of refining it. And it's not like your traditional comic script of panel 1, panel 2. It's pretty much just dialogue, honestly, and not even in a real script form, just character : dialogue. And from that, I'll kind of look at the quote unquote script and then just thumbnail in a sketchbook the whole comic with like stick figures that if I take too long to even make the comic, I'll forget what it even means. So I might have to do that one or two times over because it's so messy. And from there is when I kind of like refine it and scribble it all out on an 11 by 17 size Bristol. And then it's almost like they're not quite thumbnails anymore. They're like pre-pencils. And then after that gets done, then I'll pencil it with like a blue lead pencil, which is a lifesaver because it's like the perfect thin kind of pencil that can easily be erased in Photoshop. Because I spent so long erasing and breathing in eraser shavings that I had to do away with that. And then after that, I will ink it and scan it, clean it up a little bit in Photoshop, or sometimes a lot if I mess up on the page. I still use whiteout and white gel pens and such, but I end up doing a lot of like I flip the page in Photoshop and can suddenly see everything wonky about it, and I try to correct that. And then this might be make no sense. I do letter it on paper, but then I'm unhappy with the lettering, so I go in and sometimes it'll be a hybrid of a font that's my handwriting versus I liked how it looked on paper, but I'll try to make it as cohesive as possible. And that's kind of the whole process for me.
Do you ever work digitally at all or no?
I mean, I would say this is kind of a little bit digital, because I am cleaning up each panel in Photoshop and fixing things like certain poses or whatever, but like fully digital, no, for two reasons. Only because one, I'm at a computer all day and I cannot. I tried to do one comic once, a 20-page comic, digitally fully, and it was just, I had such a bad time doing it. My eyes were burning from, and that's the kind of thing people often say, like, oh, and you work in, not just animation, but you work a day job that's creative, are you burn out at night? I was when I had to look at a computer for like many hours after being there 8 hours a day, but it's almost like complete shift when you can go to a physical drawing table and it's like, oh, I'm not burnt out at all. It's something completely different. The other thing is when I do a comic digitally, and I think but I have chatted with some other people who make work digitally, and they have to force themselves to not fall into this trap. You can get so stuck on like, little minutia and zooming in and clean and tiny little things in the background, or like fixing tiny things that like it gets so lost that it's like, oh, that's not even relevant when it's printed. It's so small, it doesn't matter. So it's better for me to work traditionally. One, because it's so much more fun, but also you don't get stuck on things, because like as tiny as you can draw is kind of as big as it's gonna get, and then you don't have to worry about any kind of extra time spent when you don't need to allot it to that.
When you're working, do you mainly work like at a home studio on your comics rather, or do you take your stuff? Because when you're working analog, it's, hard to take that stuff on the go, but it is possible. You can get a drawing board and stuff like that. So when you're making comics, is it almost like a space you do it in continuously to where it's like kind of like clocking in, or what's your setup like?
I'm always jealous of people that can take their comics everywhere and just work on it. Like I always see when people travel to shows or like working in their hotel room and things. And I just can't do that, me personally. Like I have a drawing table in the living room and just kind of a side desk with all pens and paper and, inking materials and such. And I just kind of sit there, and I have a TV and just put on the worst movie possible to not distract me in the background and just sit and draw. And then I do have another room where the Cintiq is for digital work with all my comics and toys and junk. But the drawing table is in the other room, so I can sit and kind of peripherally have a TV on and have it be white noise in the background.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but Scumburbia is mainly the comic work I've seen from you so far. It's all been black and white. Have you done any kind of color special or color story or iteration of that so far?
That's funny. Actually, no, I really haven't. I love black and white and color. I do tons of color, like illustration work when I have like a flyer. I was just finishing one up today for a band. And like I've done color covers, like variant covers. Like I did a few Rick and Morty covers, but like I've never colored a full comic on my own other than experimenting with it at SVA. But I love reading color comics and black and white, but I just don't find the process of coloring fun. Like I love black and white and deciding where to spot the black and such like that I never have. And closest I think I've done is like a tone, like with a zip tone. And maybe I will one day, but right now I'm just in a black and white phase, I guess.
Yeah, nothing wrong with it.
Sure.
I mean, even when it comes down to like printing, it's so much cheaper
That's
anyway.
true.
Like,
That's true.
Yeah. I didn't know if it was like a artistic, stylistic choice versus like cost or, how that went there.
No, definitely stylistic
But no,
choice.
it looks great.
Oh, well, thank you.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, speaking of cost, that ad book, which is full color, was my first like, oh my God, so this is what it's like to print in color. I mean, that was 300 pages, but even so, it was like, well, thank God I don't make comics in color.
Now, you're mainly self-publishing, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any interest in taking Scumburbia to a publisher?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I would love for that to happen. I mean, the way I've always been doing it was just self-publishing, kind of making it and putting it out, and I love the act of doing that. But I certainly would. I mean, I think for me, it's more like I just take so long to finish this that I imagine it as one kind of long story, and each issue is a different quote unquote episode where, you don't have to necessarily read them in order, but I like crafting it as if you do read it in order, there is a story there, but you also don't have to. But to answer your question, it'd be nice to have them kind of all done or close to being done, and then maybe taking that to a publisher and seeing if they will put out the whole thing or at least splitting it in two, because I see it as opposed to this ongoing series of pitching it like, oh, like just indefinitely. I see it having an ending, and I'd like to move on to other stories or ideas after this. So that's why I'm kind of just focused on this right now, so I can hopefully have a bulk of work to then take to someone, or, worst case scenario, if it doesn't get published by someone, I could always do a Kickstarter or just put it out myself. I did actually, part of the next issue that I'm working on now, I finished. I don't usually work this way, but I penciled, inked, lettered, like ready to go 35 pages of what's going to be an 80-page comic, and I tried to get it in now for Fantagraphics this past year, but it was so many pages that it didn't work out because it was 35, and I had a feeling that I might have been shooting myself in the foot by making a comic that was so long, because it had a beginning, middle, and end within the longer story. There was like, yeah, it might be tricky for them to put that in an anthology, and I was correct. But that was the closest any of these stories would have been to being officially published.
Hell yeah. Now you mentioned Scumburbia coming to an end there. So you do have like a final point for that for, I guess, like this current iteration volume of it?
Yeah, I do. And I wouldn't even necessarily say it would be a volume. I think it would just be like an ending just this series of characters, this title, just moving on to something completely different. But I'm far away from that at this point because with a day job and it takes me so long because I'm doing it in a slow way that I don't know when that'll be, but I certainly do have like an ending. I have a whole script written out for a complete ending to this series for sure, but it's in kind of not perfect form just yet because each issue that I work on informs almost the next issue coming.
And I hate to, comics is such like a tedious thing and takes so much time. But I mean, do you have any ideas for what you would like to explore next, whether it be a theme or, a certain type of story or, genre of story?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, like I have so many different ideas that I've written down, but like the way that I have always worked is like I have to write down an idea or a concept and it takes me like years to really like flesh it out and feel like this is what I want to devote my time to. Because like the characters that I'm working on now for this Scumburbia series, I drew them when I was like a freshman in college. So it took me that long to even kind of get a handle on this story. And it's the way I kind of work. So I don't really know. I always did have the idea to do, I know this sounds kind of strange because I said I didn't read superhero comics growing up, but I always did want to draw like a really strange, weird kind of superhero comic that's goofy and cartoony, but not anything. It would be drawn, in the way that I draw, nothing like no correct anatomy, let's say. But yeah, maybe that, but I don't know. I guess I'll see how I feel once I finish this.
Hell yeah. So I do want to talk about when it comes to like, I know we kind of went into process and so forth and like, organizing and everything, but I know that you have recently joined the Power Pulp team, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And that, to my understanding, that's like a collective of cartoonists and a distribution type setup. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. No, it's been really great, honestly. That's exactly what it is. It's like a collective of a bunch of cartoonists who kind of are you're still your each kind of manager / promoter, but everyone is kind of promoting each other and everybody is just looking out for one another. And it's just basically like a community that is just pushing each other forward in terms of like opportunities and events. And on top of that, yeah, it's a distributor at this moment where they are kind of, in addition to your comic on their website, they're taking their titles that, you are part of and bringing them to different shops across the country. And I would imagine, I guess this, of course, depends on the store, but that store might put out like a section dedicated to Power Pulp, let's say, where just those titles would be in a certain area. And it's kind of in its infancy in some ways. So I'm excited to see it grow and I'm happy to be on board with it because it's been really cool so far.
Yeah, a lot of our friends are involved with it, but to be honest, we haven't really talked to anybody that is like, in the mix with it since it's become a thing. So it's not a publisher, it's just more of a distribution thing. Like you all publish your own books and do you send it to them as a distributor?
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I know that we got some buddies in there. I know Pat Kane's in there.
Oh, yeah.
Corinne Halbert. I know that Sam Royale's in there and gosh, what's his name? Bam. Brian McRae is in there too. And I know tons of other people are in there as well. So did they approach you? Did you approach them? How did that come to be?
Well, yeah, I approached them about being involved because I was intrigued about it. And I met Chris Anderson, who's one of the, I guess, founders. And I met him at the R. Crumb event in LA where R. Crumb did not show up and Art Spiegelman showed up to replace him with Matt Groening on stage for Dan Nadell's book. And that's when we started chatting because that was right around the corner from the Silver Lake Comic Show I was throwing. And then we ended up talking about the DIY aspect of the show I was throwing. And then I heard more about Power Pulp, even though I saw an article about it online. I think it was, I don't remember, Comic Speed or something like that. But yeah, we were chatting about it for a while and like I sent my stuff over and the way it works is like every member of the collective kind of takes a look and decides if they feel that your work is a good fit for them. So I sent along my work, and I think it was a few months, or I don't remember how long. They were like, yeah, we'd like to welcome you to the collective. And yeah, so it's been fun to be a part of it. And that's kind of how it began. And then he ended up as well tabling at the Silver Lake Comic Show too, and selling some of his books. So yeah.
So I know I wouldn't say it's in its infancy, but I know it's like a newer thing. So it seems like it's got some legs. So
yeah, no, not quite infancy. I just meant like it hasn't been around for 5 years or so. It's new-ish.
Right, yeah. And I mean, definitely making their presence known. So
totally.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big, like, stops that people have with indie cartoons, or not indie cartoons, indie comics, is like how to get the stuff out of, like, zine fairs and stuff. Because we don't have, well, I say we as a scene, like, usually we're not printing enough comics to be distributed traditionally through like a Diamond, or, well, not even Diamond anymore, but, Penguin Random House and Lunar and so forth. So I think if you can get that issue addressed when it comes to distribution, I think that's honestly the biggest hurdle when it comes to alternative comics and getting them into people's hands, because I think there's an audience there, people that just read comics in general, that be willing to check stuff like this out. It's just hard to get it into places that you're not physically at selling the books. So I do think Power Pulp is a good thing if it's mainly a distribution model, and trying to get everybody's work out there. And even the whole thing that you just mentioned about kind of having like a Power Pulp section, I think that can definitely have some legs, because it's a brand identity, and some people may not pick up something because they're like, oh, what is this? I don't, as weird as it is, like, they're like, they don't trust it because it doesn't seem legit. But I mean, it's actually like a brand, and branding and everything like that. So I don't really think it's a bad thing at all. And I think it's interesting,
Sure.
And hopefully some more people follow suit to get stuff into people's hands, around the United States and maybe even internationally.
I completely agree. No, I think so too. I mean, that kind of ties into before when you asked about publishing. It's like, if the reason to be published, for one of the main reasons, is to get people to to find your book. And this is, I think, the next best thing for me at this moment, and for all these artists, where it's like, yeah, that it's a way where people will find your comic where otherwise they would not have discovered it. Because if you're not out there kind of hustling and selling your work at shows, let's say there's a year you can't do it, or even 2 years, it's like, it's nice to have a distributor on board that will kind of be there for you and bring your comic into outlets that you might not have even thought of. So yeah, it's great. And I agree with everything you said.
Hell yeah. You work in art for a day job, and you make comics. Are you a sketchbook kind of guy, or do you just kind of draw when you're working on something only?
Yeah, I would say I'm somewhere in between. Like I kind of always am changing. Like I'm kind of shifting all the time. Like sometimes I am for a long period of time, then sometimes I'm not. I think it just depends on if I have a project I'm in the middle of and work is tough versus work is slow right now, and I'm not on a project, and I'm in my sketchbook a lot. So it always just depends, and it's kind of shifting and changing. At this moment right now, I'm not drawing in my sketchbook a lot, because I'm in the middle of a comic and another project, and work has been kind of intense. So it's been like, don't have time for my sketchbook, or when I do have time, I'm instead probably reading other people's comics, not sketching in my sketchbook. But yeah, so I would say it's changing all the time.
All right, so I wanted to touch a little bit on influences on your work and how you think about making comics. I know we've mentioned a couple of names already. Is there anybody else at the top of the list in terms of artists, creators, cartoonists who left a pretty large mark in how you make comics?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's so many. It's so hard to say. I mean, other than speaking of, like I said, all the animation stuff, like the Klasky Chupo world, like, and the people I mentioned already, I mean, I would say that a lot of my, like, I feel like I'm constantly pulling from so many different like, for example, like when I was going through that ad book that I was putting together, there's so many cartoonists in there that I was like shocked that they did ads, and it kept reminding me that that so many of these artists are, like, I guess kind of jumbling my words, but I guess what I'm trying to say is, going through that book was really cool, because like I felt like almost every artist in there that was recognizable to me was a big influence on me, and I wasn't thinking about it in that regard at the time, but now looking back, Adrian Tomine was a big influence on me, even though you don't maybe quite see it in the style for me. But Just the way he tells stories was really influential. And I said Charles Burns and Daniel Clowes and Gary Panter and Peter Cooper was a big influence on me too. And man, Jeff Smith, like I said, trying to think of who else. This kind of I've been going through like a lot of weird comics that I for somehow didn't know existed till the past few years. Like I've been looking at Ralph Snart a lot lately. I'm sure you guys know who that is. And I was like, wow, I love the art in here. This is really cool. And I've been keeping those near my desk and looking at the way that's been crafted. And that's been fun too. And yeah, I mean, all of the, like Drew Friedman and Crumb and man, I mean, all those guys and anyone else I'm blanking. I don't know.
Hell yeah. Do you have any like current people that you're reading or like looking forward to that are currently active in the scene?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many. There's this artist called Connor McCann, I think his name is.
Yeah. We just had him on the show not too long ago.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Like he's someone who I really love his work, and I just bought like a really big I remember the other name of the God Bless the Machine is a smaller one, but he put out a bigger one that I started that I haven't finished yet.
Demon Summoner Gash.
That's amazing, and like I'm like blown away looking at that. I also man, what is it? This isn't brand new, but I love Ultrasound, that Fantagraphics book. That was like man, what's his name?
Oh, Connor
Connor. Oh, yeah.
Shootlet or something.
Also Connor. Yeah, they're both Connor. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, those two come to mind. Man, what else? So many. I mean, I'm a fan of MS Harkness, more black and white that I love. Yeah, I'll stick with that for now. I'm sure everything is going to pop into my head right after this, but those are people that at the moment I'm really into.
Hell yeah. Now, we won't go too far into it because I'm sure you're like tied up and everything, but I do want to talk about making a living as an artist because, like you said, you went to school and studied, cartooning, making comics, and you were like, well, fuck, how can I transition this into being able to pay my bills? And you took, the path to animation. I'm assuming this is your dream gig. You grew up watching and reading Simpsons comics. Now you're, working on the show. And I saw that you posted that you've been on almost a quarter of the episodes now of the 800 that have come out, which is insane because I didn't know you'd been working that long. I knew you'd been there for a while, but I guess to put that into perspective, that's a pretty good chunk of the show.
Oh, yeah.
Without like, getting yourself in trouble or whatever, like, was that like something like, some people in this world, they do that whole like, power of realization, pause and enforcement. Like, were you like, I'm going to get a gig on The Simpsons? Or is it something that just, the universe, the stars aligned and you kind of just found your way there? Because that's pretty fucking awesome to be able to, grow up consuming that stuff and then end up there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, thanks. I mean, it's weird because like it totally is my favorite show. And as a kid, like obsessed, like if it wasn't, like I was saying Nickelodeon, it was The Simpsons. And what's funny is I didn't even consider that working on the show was a possibility because it just seemed so like out of reach. And I didn't even think about it. Like I never thought like I would work on the show. I love drawing the characters. And what's so funny is like, I didn't plan to move to LA, but I was reading the comics a lot. Like I'd go to the supermarket at like 7, 8, 9, 10, buy the Simpsons comics, and I would try to replicate the comics. So honestly, I thought that one day maybe I'll make my own comics and also make Simpsons comics. Like I didn't even consider working on the show could be a possibility. But so it's a little bit stars aligned, but it's like I had goals to try to work on the comics, and sadly by the time I was older, the comics ended, so that never really worked out. But anyway, to answer your question, like I thought that I would come here to LA and like possibly just work at Nickelodeon or something and work on a cartoony show, but it just kind of worked out that while at UCLA a professor was a director on the show, and I was asking him if they offer, or he used to be a director on the show, and I was asking if they offered internships, and he said he would find out. And then after months of pestering him, like I felt bad for how often I was like, because I was like, this is the first person I ever met that like worked on the show. I didn't even realize when I went to the school that someone who taught there worked on the show. That was like, oh my God, like it's kind of in reach. And the only other person I met closest to that world was Bill Morrison, who was like the creative director of Simpsons comics when I was like 12 at a Big Apple Comic Con in Manhattan when I showed him drawings when I was, a child. So this was like, wow, this guy works on the show or worked on the show. And so finally he gave me the information or found out, and I had an interview for an internship. And then since the internship in 2014, 15, I just remained there because that led to internship, to a production assistant, to a production coordinator, to freelancing, character design, to full-time character design. And then I'm still there now.
Do you approach character design on the show and in your comics in the same way, or is it different?
Oh, I think it's very different because when I'm drawing my own characters, I'm not really, and also in comics in general, versus animation, like you don't have to, you can be loose and off model in every panel if you want. It doesn't matter because the reader obviously knows who this character is. But in animation, you have to be not only precisely on model, but you have to think about everything. Like, is the size of this object big enough for this character's hand? Because this character's hand is chunky, and if they're opening a door or something like that, you have to be aware of everything around it and the environments, because these are getting passed along to other departments where they're going to, like, yes, of course you can cheat things, but to a certain degree. Like, not that I do props necessarily, but cars, or like on, not even on this show in particular, on any show, it's like, oh, if this character is a huge character, how's he fitting in this car door? So in a comic, you can squash and stretch anything you want, and it doesn't matter because it's all cheated. And when you're doing, like, let's say a turnaround in a comic or whatever, or the back view of a character, it doesn't even have to necessarily match per se, but in animation, like, the back view of a character has to match exactly for the most part, unless there's a reason you're cheating it, because the animators are going to need to know how it works when they turn. So I don't approach it at all the same way, because when I'm drawing my own characters, I'm not even drawing a model sheet. I know what it looks like in my head, and I'm just drawing it on the page and spitting it out. Where on the show, an animation, I am putting a character on the model sheet, I'm checking sizes, I'm checking the height, I'm making sure everything is working properly.
Hell yeah. Now, before animation, did you have any other, like, gigs as far as art gigs, to make ends meet, or was it always just animation for you?
I mean, I guess if you count, like, working at a CVS, like I mentioned earlier, and then working odd random jobs, like trying to do graphic design when I was like 4, mocking up school events at the college, and I did that again. Oh, working like the student lounge and things like that. But all along the way of those other gigs, I was trying to get as many kind of like freelance illustration gigs at the same time. But prior to working on The Simpsons, like as a job in animation, it was just kind of bouncing around to non-art jobs until I was able to land this job on a show that doesn't seem to ever stop.
This is just off your website. It seems like you've kind of had a lot of clients when it comes to, the reason why I'm asking this is a lot of people, talk about, sustainability as far as, earning a living making the arts. And it seems like, you've kind of got it figured out. It seems like even before The Simpsons, you were kind of bouncing around and making, art for other publications and, other companies and so forth. I know a lot of that's like, who you know and, making connections along the way. But if you had any advice to someone, maybe they're fresh out of school or just trying to, make a living at art, what would that be?
Honestly, to be completely honest, like yes, connections and who you know are certainly important, but almost every gig that I get is just for me cold emailing or emailing so many people of just that I want to work with, like bands, for example. Like before even The Simpsons, when I moved to LA or almost was starting to leave New Jersey / New York, I was just I was emailing like every band I loved and like, can I do art for you? And like, you might hear back from 1 out of like 20 emails that will go unanswered. And that's kind of how it still is. Like every gig that I get, almost, I shouldn't say every, but most gigs that I get that I really enjoy and love doing were because I've just emailed someone. And I would say that is the advice to give, that like, just email as many people as possible that you like and want to work with. And like, I know they say don't do things to get your name out there, which is true to some degree, but if you feel like it's an investment or it's valuable, to do this for a little less money, then I think it's important because that will not just like get your name out there, but it'll create a relationship where then the next gig, maybe they'll offer you more or they'll keep wanting to work with you. And just like the bands I've worked with or any kind of company, like even another piece of advice I guess I could say is something that's even out of left field that you wouldn't necessarily think would be a gig, could be a gig. Like if there's a company of a product or a brand, even if it's food, just something that you love, that you're like, they don't really have art or like their branding isn't cartoony or whatever. Like maybe all it takes is you emailing them and being like, I would love to do blank for you. Or speaking of ads again, I would love to draw an ad for you. Like maybe they'll say yes and actually pay you a lot of money because for them, who knows, it's a tax thing, or maybe they're happy to try something different. And that's what it's been most of the time. I would say 80% of the gigs I have were just from that versus someone that I knew.
Hell yeah. So you really are like closed mouths don't get fed. You went out and got it out of the mud. So honestly, that's pretty sick. Yeah.
Oh, well, thanks. Well, actually, it's funny that it kind of ties to like one thing that kind of really stuck with me. And it sounds kind of like basic, but I guess when you're a high schooler, you really don't think about this at all. And then you come to college and you're like, whoa, this is blowing my mind. So saying it now is not that earth shattering. But when I was like 17 and it was Klaus Jansen, who was my teacher, and he was like, all the people in this room, he's like, it really doesn't matter who's talented in here. He's like, the ones that will never stop working and keep emailing and trying to get a gig will be the ones that will continue to have a job. And I was like, oh man, I got to do that. And I kind of think about that all the time, and I still try to do that as much as possible.
I'm a huge Klaus Jansen fan, and just like thinking about that guy having to like do cold calls for work is insane because like he's been such a presence in, my comic reading growing up and even still.
Sure. So
yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah.
So, you spent time on both coasts, East Coast versus West Coast. Who comes out on top?
That's funny. I mean, I love the East Coast. Like I feel like I love weather and I love overcast weather and I love seasons and rain. So like being in LA is like eternal summer. And like, I know that I'm kind of the minority in that because everyone here looks at me like I'm crazy, but I like the East Coast, and one day it would be nice to be back in New York or adjacent to New York or something. But LA is fine just because, animation is here and it's fun to be here around screenings and such. And, there's always something going on, which I love, but there's also always something going on in New York. So I guess I'm going to go with the East Coast.
Hell yeah.
Oh, I could say one more thing that popped into my head from earlier is that, of course, I left this out, but Jonan Vasquez was a huge influence on me as a kid.
Yeah.
That's like, I was like, how did I not say that first? Like, I read all his comics and I studied those to learn black and white.
No, that makes sense.
Hell
I've
yeah.
spoken to a lot of different LA-based animators or people who are invested or work in animation, and Jonan is one of those guys that always gets brought up by by those people.
I could see that. Yeah. Totally.
All right. So Sam, do you have any shows coming up or anything like that where people can, see you soon?
So this year, because I'm working on a comic, I'm not really going to be doing a lot of shows, but I do San Diego Comic-Con every year, so that's one that's always really fun, and I'll be there. And then there will be another Silver Lake comic show in probably November, but that could change. But other than that, I don't think there's any other shows coming up. I might be doing Designer Con in LA, in Pasadena in June, which is not a comic show per se, but it's like just all things design. So it's like toys, comics, prints, art, and that's a cool, fun show. But yeah, I think that's it for me right now.
Hell yeah. And if people want to buy Scumburbia and, check you out online, where can they do that?
Well, they can go to my website, but they could also go to Power Pulp, which is great. They can also it's in random stores throughout the country. So you'd have to maybe I usually actually have a list on my website of what stores it's at too. If you prefer to buy things from a store than online, which I completely understand. Just my website or Power Pulp.
Hell yeah. And what is your website?
It's just samgrinberg.com.
All right. And do you want to plug your Instagram or anything like that?
Sure. It's also just my name, Sam Grinberg.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I'm the same way. It's always my name.
Yeah,
Sweet.
easiest.
Well, Sam, we want to thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm looking forward to continuing to read your stuff. I wish you the
Sure.
best of luck working on the new stuff, and I hope to run into you on the road someday. And
Definitely.
Yeah. So, thanks again, readers. Definitely check out Scumburbia, and you can watch The Simpsons every Sunday while it's on. And check out some of Sam's character designs there. And listeners, as always, stay gutter.
Thank you for having me.
And now, please rise for our opening hymn, In the Garden of Eden by I. Ron Butterfly.
In the Garden of Eden, honey, don't you know that I love you? In the Garden of Eden, baby, don't you know that I'll always be true?
Wait a minute, this sounds like rock and or roll.